Good morning, everyone. It's time for another video. I had a request to share the how-to for my rainfall stitch. I'm working on a project. For those of you who've seen it, here's my waterfall stitch. I'll provide a link for this how-to in my description. Here's my waterfall stitch, and I had somebody request, nice lady request, my rainfall stitch, which is this stitch up here. As you can see, my project right now is a combination of the two. A couple things to point out. On my waterfall stitch, this is 6 rows of the technique, and on the rainfall stitch, you can see this is a little bit longer. This is also 6 rows of the technique. So the difference is looks like about an inch. So keep that in mind when you're doing a project. Also, to let you know, the waterfall stitch is done in rows of 2. You can do any kind of pattern with a count of 2. The rainfall stitch is done in rows of 4. So if you're going to incorporate this into a pattern, make sure you can do rows of 4 to get the correct look. Also, this stitch needs to be done on an even number of pegs on your loom. If you use an odd number of pegs, you can probably make it work, but you'll have to pay really close attention to what you're doing. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to keep this handy because there's a few things I want to point out to you while we're going through, okay? So I've got my 26 peg loom here, long loom. I'm going to use 12 of these pegs, again an even number, to show you how to do this stitch. And we're going to be working upside down. So you can see here's the rainfall. We're working this way, coming off of our loom. I've already done a cast on in a few rows, so I'm just going to show you the technique. Again, it's in rows of 4. So we're just going to start out with, this is our slip peg, our end pegs. We're not going to do the technique on those pegs, but I'll show you what we're going to do with those. So we're going to start our first peg right here, and we're going to do an E-wrap drop stitch. So we're going to wrap, yarn over, wrap again. Okay? The second peg, we're going to do what I call a purl drop stitch. We're going to come in front of the peg. We're going to purl by pulling our yarn out. Then we're going to slip that yarn off, put this new yarn down. Okay, that's our purl, and then we're going to go behind and wrap. That's a purl drop stitch. So we're going to come around here and do an E-wrap with a yarn over, wrap again. That's going to be a knit drop stitch. We're going to come in front, go down with our hook, pull our yarn up and out, take this yarn off and pop this yarn down, and then go around the back. So you notice when we're doing the knit, we're wrapping back to front. When we do the purl, we're wrapping front to back. Okay? E-wrap, front, back to front, sorry, front to back to front, yarn again, do a purl, and wrap around to the front, go behind this peg, E-wrap it, yarn over, wrap again, then we're going to purl, wrap, and then when we get to our last peg, we're going to E-knit 3 times. We're going to E-wrap and knit 3 times. 1, 2, we're going to snug that up, and then 3. Well, I'm sorry for that break, everyone, but the battery died on my camera. So let's continue. So we finished off with a purl wrap, and we've knitted 3 on the end. Now we're going to go back the other way, and we're going to, we just started with a knit, we ended with a purl, we're going to start with a knit and with a purl. So we're going to take off our extra yarn. We're going to purl. We're going to knit. We're going to, well, there's my little cheat, by the way. Purl. And we're going to knit. Sometimes to speed things up, I just put my yarn through here, grab the bottom and purl, and then slip both off at the same time. Ta-da! So we're going to do a knit. Or you can do this the old-fashioned way. Drop your yarn off and purl. Knit. And then purl. And when we get to the end, oops, drop that. We're going to e-knit 3 times on the end, and we'll talk about why we're going to do that at the end of the video. Okay, so that's the first 2 steps in the rainfall stitch. So again, we started with a knit, drop stitch, purl, drop stitch, knit, purl, knit, purl. And if we were doing the waterfall stitch, we would just continue that. Every starting row would start with a knit, and the finishing row would start with a knit from this end here. Now, when you want to do the rainfall stitch, you're going to actually flip your beginning peg from a knit to a purl. So we started that first drop stitch with a knit. Now we're going to start it with a purl instead. So we're going to purl up, pop our yarn off, and then wrap. Then we're going to knit and wrap. Then we're going to purl and wrap, knit and wrap, purl and wrap, knit and wrap, purl, wrap, knit, wrap, purl, wrap, knit, wrap, and then again knit 3 times. 1, snugging up in between like that. Okay, so again, the first section is done with a knit, starting with a knit drop stitch. The second row starts with a purl drop stitch. I shouldn't say the second row, I should say the second set. So this first set is 2 rows. The starting drop stitch working this way, and the finished drop stitch working this way. The second set starts with a purl drop stitch this way, purl, finish that way. Okay, so let's do the finishing part of our second set. And again, we started with a purl on this side. Now we're going to start with a purl at this end. So we're going to purl over, let me purl that. Need to get myself a little bit more yarn. And then we're going to do a knit. An E-wrap knit. And we're going to purl. And then we're going to knit. And we're going to purl. And we're going to knit. Make sure you bring your, when you do your knit, make sure you bring your yarn around like this from the back to the front. Then we're going to purl. Then we're going to knit. Then we're going to purl. And then we're going to knit. And then we're going to finish off the end with 3 E-wrap knits. I'm going to go behind this peg. Make sure you're always going behind. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Sorry, I've been interrupted a lot doing this one. Again, let's review. This first drop stitch started with a knit. This second drop stitch started with a purl. This one started with a knit. This one started with a purl. This one started with a knit. And our last one here started with a purl. Okay, so I'm going to do it one more time. And hopefully this will help fix the pattern in your head for you. So again, we're going to start our first set with a knit. So we're going to wrap and then wrap again, and then we're going to purl and then wrap this way. Then we're going to wrap back this way and knit, wrap again, come to the front and purl, wrap that way, wrap this way, wrap again, come to the front. Okay, follow the direction of yarn, go around this way, and then completely around to the back, and yarn over and wrap again, all the way around back to the front, and purl, wrap it around, all the way around, and then to the back of this peg, and E-wrap, and then knit, all the way around to the front of this peg, purl, and then wrap again. Finish off with 3 knits on the end. 1, 2, 3. Okay, then we're going to go back and do the same thing, starting with a knit to finish off this row of drop stitch. And then we're going to do a purl. Then we're going to do a knit. Bring that yarn to the front, do a purl, then do a knit, bring that yarn to the front, take off your extra wrap and do a purl, pardon me, around the back, bring it to the front, and purl, go around back and knit to the front and purl. Okay, and then the next row, sorry, let's finish off our 3 knits. There we go. And then the next row, you're going to start with the knit, or with the type of stitch that you finished with. So if you end here with a knit, you're going to start with a knit. If you end here with a purl, you're going to start with a purl. Okay, so I'm going to do it one more time. Starting with a purl this time. Wrap. Go all the way around to the back of this peg and E-wrap and knit all the way around to the front of the next peg and purl, and then wrap all the way around to the back of the next peg and knit all the way around to the front and purl, all the way around the back and knit, and all the way around and to the front and purl. Okay, knit, purl, knit, and then knit 3 times. Snug that up. There we go. Okay, then we started with a purl. We're going to start here with a purl. Whatever on this end, when you start with the same stitch you ended on. On this end, you're going to go start with the same stitch you started here. So hopefully that makes sense. So we're going to purl. Oops. Then we're going to knit. Then we're going to purl. Then we're going to knit. Now you notice, I know sometimes when you do drop stitch you take all your extra yarn off at the same time. I like to do them one at a time because I like to, I kind of sometimes have a tendency to start knitting really tight, and I'll lose a lot of my drop stitch if I do that. So this helps me keep the looseness of the stitch by just pulling them off one at a time. And then we're going to purl here, and then we're going to knit. Okay, now we're going to go here and we're going to knit 3 times, snugging it up like so. Okay, so that's kind of the way we do this. And you get this nice pretty rainfall stitch. Again, we're working upside down, so when you finish, this is your rainfall actually right here. Okay, and once again, let's recap. You do 1 set starting with a knit, ending with a purl. You do the second set starting with a purl, ending with a knit. You do the third set starting with a knit, ending with a purl. You do the fourth set.
This is probably going to be the worst video I ever made. First my battery dies, then my camera gets full. Okay, so we're going to try this recap one more time. Again, first set of the drop stitch starts with a knit. Second set of the drop stitch starts with a purl. Starts with a knit, starts with a purl. That's why you need to do this stitch in rows of 4. So 1 stitch over with your extra wrap, the finishing stitch back, the purl over with your extra wrap starting with a purl, and your finishing stitch back. And again, these the triple wrap at the end is important to keep your piece flat, to also enable you to do a nice flat panel that you can knit to another panel. And what I wanted to show you really quick is this piece that I'm working on, that I'm using both the waterfall drop stitch and the rainfall drop stitch. Sorry, it's upside down. Oh, and I just hit my camera. I wanted to show you what I've done with this finished edge. I've actually done a little kind of a tie-in, but not too tight because I wanted to leave it loose like that. So you see you can run some yarn through these little extra loops that you have, and it's a really cute way of connecting them. Again, this piece is done with a combination of the waterfall drop stitch here and the rainfall drop stitch is here. Again, this is 6 rows. This is also 6 rows. So those are the 2 stitches. And a nice way to connect them. So you have, with this triple wrap on the end, you have a nice flat piece, and you also have a good stable edge for knitting or sewing pieces together. So that's the rainfall stitch. I hope that you guys are able to use it and come up with some really nice stuff, and I hope you'll share it with me. Thanks. Bye-bye.